Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I've been working on the arcade game that I mentioned in my 2 videos ago, I think. But for those of you who did not watch it, goodness, I'm going too fast today. I'm creating a game called The Arcade where you'll go through and you can play any of the mini games I've done before, which I'm going to recreate and optimize because I know I've learned a lot since I started this channel. So I'll go through and optimize them, and there'll be 2 versions of the game, one that actually has a story, and then one where you can just play all the mini games for free without like tokens and stuff. But I've been working on that, and I'm making a completely custom tile set for them. So it's taken a while, but I've been recording some videos of me doing it, so that'll be going on in the background while I actually go through a little PowerPoint I made. It's not in PowerPoint, I use Google Slides. But anyways, it's about the things you need to do before you touch your game. So anyways, let's dive into that. Alright, here's my list of the top 10 things to do before starting your RPG Maker projects. Now, before I get into this list, I'd like to preface this with all of these can be done in any order. Alright, step 1, download RPG Maker. Got it? Easy. Done. Woo, good to go. No, I'm just kidding. The actual step 1 is create your problem. Every story has a problem that needs to be solved. And so, for example, you can see on, I guess it'll be both of our rights. There's example Breath of the Wild. Zelda's seal on Ganon is weakening, so Link has to wake up and defeat him before Ganon is set loose on Hyrule. That's the problem. And Kingdom Hearts 1 and several other Kingdom Hearts following, Sora's friends are missing and he has to find them. And of course, as the story progresses, that problem becomes more grandiose, but it always starts as Sora needing to save his friends, be it Kairi and Riku, just Kairi, just Riku, Naminé, Ventus, Roxas, Aqua. Anyways, not getting down that rabbit hole. And then Wind Waker, the issue, it starts as Link's little sister is kidnapped. Then he gets pulled into this whole wide world. Turns out he's the hero legend, the king of Hyrule. It's just like, yep, sorry, you gotta go find the Triforce and defeat Ganon, even though you're like 12. Anyways, a way you can create your problem is figure out what does your main character want most, and how can you keep them from getting it? How can you take them away? Like in Wind Waker, Link just wants a chill life with his family, and then his little sister gets taken, so he has to go rescue her to try and get back to that normal and chill. I should have numbered these. Hold on. This is 2. Slide 2. Make your character. So, there are many different ways that you can create characters, be it a silent protagonist or someone who will not shut up. I'm looking at you, Vaughn. Your characters are what drive your story and keep people interested. So, your main characters, let's just focus on main characters. We'll get to side characters a little later. But your main characters are your people who drive your story forward. They're the people that want something that you've taken away. For like Vaughn, he's tired. He wants to be a sky pirate. And he's tired of life in Ravenastor after people, this is Final Fantasy 12, by the way, after it's been taken over. And he feels disillusioned with everything, so he just wants to escape and be a sky pirate. And then that is hindered when Balthier, literal sky pilot, comes in and is trying to steal the same thing he is. That goes on, that's him. Vaughn changes a lot through the story. He keeps his cannot shut up personality the entire time, but slowly he starts to realize how important friendship and his little found family is, and to think of the world beyond just himself. Now, this one isn't a video game example. However, it's a good example of a static character that missed with a lot of people. And that's is it newest at this point? I think it's the newest, because that was Pixel. Disney's newest original movie, animated movie, Wish. Now, I have not watched this movie myself. I refuse to, but I have definitely heard a bunch of different people analyze it and break it down. And from their analyses, I've gathered that Asha, I think that's the main character's name. As I said, I've never watched the movie, but she is a static character. She does not change. So that makes the story a lot less compelling because she's the same person at the end of the story as she is at the beginning. And if you want your players to be interested in your game, you have to have a dynamic character, a character who's always changing, who is different at the end from the beginning. I can't think of any other static main characters, really. Because the whole point of, like, the hero's journey is that the character goes on this journey and changes because of it. Anyways, your side characters is what we're going to talk about next. So your side characters are very important. Even if the main journey is taken alone, like in Horizon Zero Dawn, Aloy makes her journey alone. But the people she meets along the way are what make the story compelling in the way she interacts with them. You can just have one protagonist going through the entire game. Oh, okay, static characters. What's it called? Oh my gosh, I had it and then I completely lost it. I'll come back to that. No, I remember freaking Undertale. Azrael's right there. And Frisk is a silent protagonist. That means that the player implements their own thoughts and feelings and reactions to the other characters through themselves. And how the other characters interact with them. So everything about this character's personality is basically made up. I mean, every character's is, but it's made up by the player as they play, which is probably why for Undertale you have so many different alternate universes and so many different interpretations of Frisk. Because there is technically a static character. Their desire is to get out of the underground, and then by the end of it they get out of the underground, but they no longer want to escape from and I'm using air quotes here, I know you can't see it, monsters. And anyways, side characters. In the entire game of Undertale, the story is told by the side characters. Frisk technically makes the journey alone, but they're never really alone. They're always interacting with other characters, and it's really helping you build the sense of the world and the story. Even from the villains, you get the same sense of the story. Like in my actual game, not the arcade, my actual game that I'm working on, the villain, spoilers, knew the hero since they were children. And because of that, they really help build the sense of the main character, because when the main character actually sees them for the first time, it's like, oh, I know you. Why are you doing all of this? You were such a sweet kid. It really helps develop, because the main character, has to push through that and realize just because they were a good kid doesn't mean that they're a good person now and that they're doing some pretty bad things. And stuff like that. And back to Horizon Zero Dawn, Aloy is a dynamic character. She changes, she grows, especially as she learns more about her past. I won't spoil that, since it's a newer game. Well, is it newer? The sequel just came out. Anyways, did it just come? I'm not even gonna look up when that came out because it's gonna make me feel old. But I am blanking on all of the side characters' names. I can picture their faces in my brain, but I can't remember their names. The Sun King. His interactions with Aloy, you learn a lot about Aloy's character and how far she's willing to go. The drunkard with the hammer. If you don't know this game, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But he is a very stubborn, but you see a lot of Aloy's softer side because of him. And just in the most important reveal in the game, Aloy is alone. And she's having to deal with all of this by herself. But then she goes, especially in the second game, she goes and she talks with all of her friends and basically her found family, and she learns to lean on them instead of, it's not, because Aloy grew up alone. She had her adopted dad, but that was pretty much it. Her entire tribe shunned her. So she grew up being very self-sufficient. And especially at the beginning of the game, when that support system is taken away, the entire game is her building that support system back up. Anyways, I'm just going on a rant about Horizon right now. I love that game, can you tell? Anyways, let's move on to the next slide. Design your world. Alright, you need to know the when, where, be it a post-apocalyptic wasteland, that is really hard to say, or a far-off planet, a castle, and a mystic forest. Your setting plays a large part in how your characters speak and interact with each other. So by setting, I don't necessarily mean, it takes place, the start of the setting is in the main character's house when they wake up all of a sudden. I mean, like, the wider setting. You don't need to have all the fine details sorted at the beginning, but you do need to know, especially when building tile sets, what you can put in that world and have it make sense. Like, if it's a post-apocalyptic world, you can include things like power poles and crumbling massive condos and skyscrapers. But if your setting is a fantasy world that isn't, like, post-apocalyptic, there's nothing old or anything, you can't include stuff like that and have the players not be completely taken out of the story. So that's why figuring out your setting in the beginning is so important. And all of that jazz. Alright, next is decide your style. You need to decide if it's going to be 8-bit, 64-bit, point-and-click, classic RPG, visual novel, farming sim, walking sim, etc. There's a lot of different types of games you can make with RPG Maker, and it doesn't have to be a classic RPG. But you need to decide that at the beginning. Because if you market your game as an RPG and then it turns out being a visual novel or a walking sim, people are going to feel... can't think of the word I was going to say. Gypped? They're going to feel like they were lied to. So you need to figure that out in the beginning before you market your game or before you even create your game. Because especially if you want your game to be successful, you need to start marketing it as soon as you basically have the first draft written and done. Alright, choosing your font. This one's a little smaller one, so I'll just breeze through this. Please pick your font before you start making your text boxes or building your menus, because every font is a slightly different size, and if you write your entire game and then decide to change your font, then nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to fit in the text box, and you'll have to go back all the way to the beginning and redo every single text box, and it is the biggest pain in the butt. So make sure you change those at the beginning. Anyways. Choose your resolution, same thing. If you make your resolution bigger, then all of your maps will not fit on the screen and you'll just have a bunch of black area. Which, if that's the style you're going for, good for you, you're good to go. But if your maps are bigger, that means, and you change your resolution to smaller, that means not every map will fit and you'll have a lot of moving left to right, which again, if you're down for that, not a big deal, but it's best to set it at the beginning so you know what confines you're working with. Choose your rating. All right, so this is the actual, like, official game rating part. So you need to decide this early on, because that will influence what you include in your story. Are you going to include coarse language? Is it going to be explicit? You need to decide that at the beginning and stick with it, because if you have a E for Everyone game that suddenly has a explicit scene, you're gonna really throw your characters off. So you need to make sure that you decide that and that you make it clear from the beginning. And you can just Google this, it'll pop up. I just Googled video game rating system. And this one is kind of tied to the previous one, but you need to choose your target audience. So is it going to be, I'm going to use this for a broad example, but like Gen Z, even the difference between Gen Z and Gen the generation that comes after Gen Z. I can't remember. I'm Gen Z. I can't remember the one that comes after Gen Z. Oh my gosh, you guys will know. Anyways, the difference in slang and way of talking and things they're interested in and attention spans is massive. So the way that you create your game, depending on your audience and their age level, changes a lot. Now, I will say this. Do not make your game for someone else. If you want to make your game for you, make a game you would enjoy, and I guarantee there's going to be at least one other person out there who would enjoy the same type of game. And I'm not, of course, saying make it impossible for anyone else to play and full of inside jokes. Do not do that. Please do not do that. But make a game that you would enjoy playing, otherwise you're going to lose all joy in creating it. So make a game for you, but also know who is going to be playing your game. Don't make this soulless heap. Like, I've seen it a lot more recently than I have in the past, but a lot of AAA game creators are putting out these soulless heaps with bugs galore just because they have history backing them. And it's making a large opportunity for indie devs because they're putting so much soul and heart into their games that it's becoming clear and they're becoming popular. So as long as you put effort and heart into your game, you should have some success. Right, next up is check out games in your genre or genres. Now I will warn, be careful with this. You do not want to genre dump and just have a bunch of different genres in one, because that will confuse the players. Now I'm not saying assume your players are dumb. Do not do that. If you handhold them too much, they're going to get frustrated and be like, yeah, I know, just let me move past this. But if you're just know what genre you're in and the expectations of that genre so you don't pull your player out of the game. But also, if you're struggling with ideas for your game, or just to doing research, you look at the games within your genre and see where were they successful, where did they fail, what are people really frustrated about, what do people think would make it better, and implement that into your game. I'm not saying copy. Do not just direct copy. People will notice. But doing things similarly, like in Animal Crossing, the fishing minigame. You cast your rod, you wait, and the fish goes towards it a couple times, and when it bites, it gets a little noise, exclamation points, and you have to click a button to reel it in before the fish darts away again. It's the same in Fields of Mystria. It's very similar, almost identical fishing minigame. And you're not saying that they're two very, well, in the same broad category, they're two very different games. So it's not bad if something works and you like it, put it in your game. But do not copy an entire game, because that becomes infringing on copyright, intellectual property, and things like that. And people aren't going to want to play an exact remake. They're going to want to play something that takes all of the good things from all of the games in their genre and combines it into one thing. All right, now I would personally consider this the most important step, but write everything down, please. By the time you reach the middle of your game, you're going to have completely forgotten all the cool ideas you had at the beginning if you didn't write them down. I absolutely guarantee it. I've definitely done that. I've had like, oh, this is a super cool idea. And then I won't write it down, and then I'll get to the part where I was going to implement that idea, and I was just like, well, what's that idea? So please write it down. And I'm not saying you have to plot out your entire story start to finish, especially if you're a pantser, which is someone who flies by the seat of their pants. They don't write anything down, they make it up as they go. I'm not saying that you have to. I'm just saying that if you get an idea, write it down. Basic plot points, here. You don't have to say the ending, this person does this, and then they do this, and then they do this. You could just be like, then they defeat the bad guy and have a happily ever after. That could be your ending. You don't have to go into grandiose. I can't say that word today. Oh my goodness. You don't have to have these grand ideas and write them all down for like your ending. And I guarantee you, as you go through building your story and your world, it's going to change. So I'm not saying you have to write something down and stick to it. I'm saying that you have to write these down so that you don't forget it and that you can make changes to it later without forgetting the original idea and purpose of the game. All right, so in conclusion, you do not need to fully complete all of the steps I've mentioned above, or I guess in the past, before starting your game. Some things like character develop over time as you spend time with them and get to know them. My word is not gospel. Find a method that works for you. These are just some ideas to get you rolling if you're struggling with starting your game. All right, that's all I have on the top 10 things to do. So I hope you enjoy the rest of the speed build. I'll put on some music with you and maybe you can work on your game along with me. So I'll see y'all at the end of the video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I hope that my little top 10 list was helpful and that you enjoyed my little speed paint build thingy. Yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video, which should be us starting a new spooky game. Bye!